So, today, we're going to dive into one of humanity's oldest and, honestly, most profound texts, the Rig Veda. For centuries, it's been looked at as this cryptic, almost inaccessible collection of ancient hymns. But what if there's a key, a completely different way of reading it that unlocks a timeless spiritual guide? Well, let's find out.
To really get a sense of what we're dealing with here, just think about this for a second. The Rig Veda is this massive collection. We're talking over 1,000 hymns written in Vedic Sanskrit, which is this ancient sacred form of the language thousands and thousands of years ago. It's basically the spiritual source code for so much of Eastern philosophy and practice.
And right there, that's the big puzzle. If this book is so foundational, so important, why does it feel so impenetrable, so cryptic, Why have so many translations just made it seem like a bunch of primitive, ritualistic chants? That's the enigma we're going to try and crack today. All right, to solve this puzzle, you have to grasp this one crucial idea. This isn't just an old book. It's a text that comes from a totally different way of seeing the world, a different state of consciousness, even. And for our modern rational minds, that is a huge barrier. Our guide on this journey is going to be the work of Vedic scholar David Frawley, and his argument is pretty radical. He says the Rig Veda isn't what it looks like on the surface. He suggests it's not a literal history book, but a spiritual manual, one that's written in a really complex symbolic language. I mean, think about it. Practices like yoga, philosophies like Vedanta, which is all about the ultimate nature of reality, even Ayurveda, the science of medicine, all of these incredibly sophisticated systems of mind, body, and spirit, they all point back to the Rig Veda as their origin. So the idea that the source itself is somehow simplistic, it just doesn't add up, does it? This quote from Frawley just hits the nail on the head. The Veda is talking about cosmic forces, divine light, and these epic inner battles. Our modern worldview, which is often so materialistic, it just doesn't have the categories to even process this stuff. It makes the whole text seem alien or, just plain weird. Okay, so one of the biggest hurdles has been translation. For a really long time, the Veda was being deciphered by people who, they saw it as a historical artifact of a primitive culture, not as a living, breathing sacred text. And this really shows you the two ways you can approach it. On the surface, the superficial reading, you see hymns to nature gods and stories about warring tribes. But if you use the symbolic key, it all transforms. Those primitive hymns become descriptions of cosmic laws. The warring tribes are actually a metaphor for our own inner conflicts. And nature worship becomes a deep understanding of different states of consciousness. And this is the crucial point. For a long time, the people doing the translating were 19th century European academics. They weren't looking for spiritual wisdom, they were looking for history. They slapped this literal materialistic lens onto a text that was never, ever meant to be read that way. And because of that, they basically missed the entire point. So, if a literal reading completely misses the mark, what's the right way to do it? This brings us to the core of our whole exploration today. The key that might just unlock the Veda's true, profound meaning. Here it is. This is the fundamental shift in perspective you have to make. Stop looking for literal battles and ancient kings. Start looking for a guide to inner transformation. Think of the Veda as an instruction manual for the soul, but it's written in code. Okay, here's the first part of the codebreaker. The gods, names like Agni, Indra, Soma. They are not characters in some mythological soap opera up in the sky. They are names for the fundamental forces and principles of existence. So Agni, the god of fire, is also the inner fire of your consciousness, your will to evolve. Indra, the king of the gods, with a thunderbolt, he represents the power of perception that can shatter ignorance. The many gods are just different faces of one single indivisible reality. And who wrote this code? The rishis, or seers. And it's so important to get this. They weren't just poets making up pretty verses. The tradition says they were enlightened individuals who could directly perceive cosmic laws and then translate that vision into sacred sound. This leads us to the second, and maybe the most important part of the key. The Veda's language is mantric. What does that mean? It means the words aren't just labels for things. They are vibrational formulas. The sound itself carries power and meaning. It's a language designed to create an experience, not just to describe one. This quote just captures it perfectly. The rishis weren't just picking words that sounded nice. They were engineering with sound. In this mantric language, words have multiple layers of meaning.
literal, psychological, spiritual, all humming away at the same time, inside the same sound.
Okay, let's make this super concrete. This is the big aha moment. Take the word Gao. Literally, it means cow. So early translators saw this word everywhere and just concluded the Vedic people were simple farmers obsessed with their cattle. But in the symbolic code, Gao also means light, or the rays of the dawn, or knowledge, or even the soul itself. All of a sudden, a hymn about freeing cows becomes this profound metaphor for attaining enlightenment. Or take Ashva, which means horse. On the surface, it's an animal. Symbolically, it's prana, the life force. So a hymn about a swift horse is actually a meditation on mastering your own energy. Once you see this, it changes everything. So once we apply this key, understanding the gods as forces and the language as symbolic, what does the Veda actually show us? What was the vision these ancient seers were trying to share?
What it reveals is this stunningly sophisticated psychology. It's a map. It describes the journey of consciousness from darkness to light, from ignorance to truth. It's not a history of the external world. It's a map of our inner world, and it outlines a path for all of humanity to achieve its absolute highest spiritual potential.
You'll often hear the Veda talking about a golden age. But according to this interpretation, it's not talking about some long-lost paradise in history. The golden age is a state of consciousness. It's a potential that exists inside all of us right now. It describes a way of being where humanity lives with an enlightened awareness, totally in sync with the cosmos. And that's the essence of the vision. It's a state of unity, where your individual will is in perfect harmony with the cosmic will. It's a vision not of what humanity used to be, but of what humanity could be. Now, this all might sound really ancient and abstract, but the whole point of unlocking this code is to see what it means for us, right here, right now. So why does any of this matter? Well, because in our age of, digital distraction and materialism, the Veda offers this powerful reminder of an inner dimension that maybe we've forgotten about. It gives us a language and a framework for that spiritual quest so many of us find ourselves on today. Ultimately, digging into this ancient wisdom, it's not about escaping into the past. It's about rediscovering a timeless part of ourselves and finding a key to a more meaningful life, right here in the present, right? And that really leaves us with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? What if one of the oldest books on Earth isn't just a relic? What if it's a message for our future? Could learning to read this ancient symbolic code actually teach us a new way to read the map of our own consciousness? The answer, maybe, is waiting for each of us to discover.